Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. For this week we're going to be doing a two-tiered black and burgundy geode cake. And the first thing I wanted to do was show you guys how I assembled my cake layers. I used an 8-inch cake for the bottom, a 6-inch cake for the top. I used a vanilla cake base. I took a layer of buttercream, placed it on the first layer, put my Oreos in between, another layer of buttercream to kind of help secure the layer that you're putting on top to it, so that way it's not sliding around when you're crumb coating. And after you get all your layers filled and stacked, go ahead and give them a nice crumb coat and pop them in the fridge to set up for a little bit before you put on your final coat. For the final coat, while you're waiting for your cakes to set up, I made some black buttercream, and I wanted to show you guys how I got it such an intense black color. So I actually made my vanilla buttercream. I added about a cup of black cocoa powder to this, and then what this does is it actually gives you a base coat, so that way you don't have to add as much black dye as you would if you were using a lighter colored buttercream. So once you add in your black dye, a little bit goes a long way once you've already added the black cocoa powder to this. So put your black dye in, combine it together, and then put a piece of saran wrap over it. Let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. This will give your icing time to intensify in color. That way you need to know if it's fine as is, or if you need to add a little bit more of that black gel food coloring to your buttercream. Once you have your desired color of black, go ahead and give your cake a final coat. Smooth it down as much as you can, the top and the sides, and with your bench scraper and your offset spatula. And then once you get it as smooth as you'd like it to be, also because we're going to be doing a geode cake here, if you get a little bit of a mess up, air bubble or a thin spot, we can always use that for the front of the cake because we're going to be carving into it anyway. So get your cakes final coated, chill them, and then right now we're doing the doweling process. So what I did was, since I'm using a 6-inch cake on top, I took a 6-inch cake round, placed it on my 8-inch, scored around it with a knife so I knew exactly where I was going to be putting my dowels in here, because you don't want your dowels to be kind of sticking out longer than the board or the cake that you're going to be placing on top. Leave your middle dowel tall, cut your outside ones to the same height so that you don't have a slanted tiered cake. Place a little bit of buttercream down and take your chilled cake and put it on top of the bottom cake. Make sure that you do give the top tier time to chill in your bottom cake as well. That way when you are moving it and placing it onto the second cake, you don't accidentally touch it or smear it or get any fingerprints in your icing or anything like that. Once you have your cake stacked, if you have any kind of indentation in between the two cakes, take your bench scraper, take your offset spatula and go ahead and add a little bit of buttercream in between those two combining parts of the cakes and smooth them out until your likeness. And then what I did now was, instead of just carving right into it, I wanted to give myself an outline of where I wanted my geodes to go exactly. And that way I know when I'm cutting, you know exactly where I need to cut. And of course, if you decide I want to put more geodes in another area, you can still just add as much as you'd like to do. So I wanted to take mine to a thin spot on top, enlarge it where the two cakes met together, and then make it thin again going down to the bottom. And then I also added a little tiny side piece on the bottom left, so that way you just had a little bit more geode action going on. And then go ahead and start carving. Make sure that you are pulling that knife into the middle, so that way you're getting kind of a slanted carve. And also make sure that you're cleaning off your knife in between cuts, because you don't want any built up cake or buttercream, you know, while you're cutting into your cake to kind of clump up on there, and then it'll kind of leave you with a rougher cut versus a cleaner one. So take that time and clean off your knife in between cuts. So now what you want to do is add your buttercream in the layers where you're going to be placing the geodes. Make sure that you don't put this cake back in the fridge after you do this process, because otherwise your icing will set up on you and your rock candies won't stick into it. They'll just roll off. If it looks a little bit sloppy right here when you're adding the buttercream, that's totally fine. You're going to be adding tons of rock candies, you're going to be painting them, then you're going to be adding a little bit of gold around the edge, so it won't hurt or mess it up at all, I promise. Now for the rock candies, I just kind of put them in my hands just like you would do with a sprinkle cake, and kind of rocked them back and forth into the largest parts of where the geodes were going to be placed on the cake. And then for the thinner areas, you'll want to go one by one and just place those individually. And if you see any spots where you have kind of rocked it in with your hand, but you know, a couple didn't stick all the way to the buttercream, individually place those as well. This will come out beautiful. and now it's time for painting. What I would recommend before starting to paint is now, once you've had all of your rock candies placed into your buttercream, now go ahead and set it back into the fridge to set up a little bit. That way your rock candies are stuck in place. They're not going to be moving around while you're painting it with your brush. So once that's been set up for probably a good half hour or so, what I did was I took the darkest part and I put a little bit of food grade alcohol. I used burgundy. For some reason in the video it looks a little bit coppery, but it's actually burgundy. And I placed the darkest part in the middle, and just where I wanted it to look like more in depth and more of a deep look for the geodes. So once you're done with where you think the darkest area will be, take your paintbrush, a different paintbrush. You don't want to use the same one because it can kind of suck in that color a little bit. You want to use a fresh one. Add a little bit more vodka to the color that you've already used. It will thin it down a little bit. Then you can take it and go around the outsides of the darkest areas with a lighter color. If you think the darkest color is too dark or it's not blent well, that's totally fine. Take your paintbrush, dip it in the vodka, and then kind of blend it a little bit more, and that will kind of help suck out some of that color and fade it a lot better for you. So once you're done painting your geodes, then it's time for the gold. Now there is some edible paint where it's already mixed together for you, and all you have to do is literally dip your paintbrush in it and go to town. But for what I used, I actually had a gold dust, which I mixed with some vodka, and I like this one because it thickens up and it almost looks like a gold leaf once it's thickened up and you're starting to paint it on. If you accidentally add too much vodka to your gold, don't worry about it. You can let it evaporate for a couple minutes and then it'll thicken up for you. So I wanted to show you guys how I made my topper. I actually used isomalt for this. What you do with it is you put it in a microwave safe bowl, or you can heat it up on your stove as well. Make sure that you don't have children around or anything while doing this. It's super, super hot. You will get burnt if you're not careful. And anyway, I placed it in a microwave safe cup, microwaved it for probably a good 4 to 5 minutes, stirring in between. It will seem like it's never going to melt down, but you'll see it eventually start to bubble, and then it will go from these white crystals to a nice clear liquid. So once that happens, you can either add your coloring, then you can put clear liquid down onto your acetate paper, and then add your color and make some little swirls or whatever designs you'd like. I just kind of put a little bit of the burgundy into my melted isomalt and swirled it in my cup a little bit, and then placed it down on my acetate paper. I'm trying to create a bowl here. So what I did was I was working on stainless steel, so it was a little bit cool to the touch. So it kind of started setting up my isomalt a little bit on me. So I had to work a little bit quickly, but get your shape, spread it out if you want it to be a little bit bigger. Be careful and make this a little bit thick, because since we are making a bowl, when you're pulling out the acetate paper, you don't want it to crack or break on you. So the thicker the better for this specific design. And then just place it around a cup, put your clips in to get the desired shape. After it has cooled completely and it's time to remove the acetate paper, just double check it. It should be pretty firm for you. It won't bend or anything. It'll kind of be like a glass firmness. So just take the clips off and be very, very careful in the areas where it's kind of pinched together when you're removing that acetate paper, because you don't want to accidentally break off any of those nice, beautiful curves that you have with your isomalt bowl. So once you have removed the acetate paper, you can decorate this however you want. I decided to take mine and paint the edge of it gold, and then I glued some rock candies in it with some piping gel, painted them a light shade of pink, and then I took some dry gold dust and kind of flung it onto the inside where I had just dyed the rock candies gold. I just wanted to give it a more intense look. After I was done making this, I put a little dam on the back of my cake because I didn't want the isomalt bowl to be completely flat. I wanted it to be pushed forward so you could see what's inside of it. After I placed the dam, I did put my bowl to it and put it in the fridge to set up, so that way when I'm adding my rock candies and everything, it was firm and it wasn't wobbling around on me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want to see more videos, please ring that notification bell. Thank you all for subscribing, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below and I will get back to you. Thank you guys so much for watching.